Hello, 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 hello. This is Nancy Smith-Maddox on WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm broadcasting from Little Rock, Arkansas on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. I'm so excited to be with you today. We have the most wonderful guest that we interview on Shine Your Light Radio Ministry. Before we get started and I make an introduction of this very special person, let me just remind you that WYTV7 is a nonprofit, and any donations that are made to WYTV7 will go towards publicizing and publishing the broadcasters' interviews for more views. We do get views international, and we are on iHeartRadio now, so I'm real excited about that. That'll gain us more exposure. So I just wanted to give a little plug for WYTV7. And my guest today is Mr. Jeffrey Roshell. He is from Chi-Town, Chicago. I don't believe he lives there now, but he lives near there in a suburb or something. But he is one fantastic man, one beautiful author of published 3 books, which is very exciting. We'll talk about that today. He is a man on a mission, and he's done a really, really good job. He's a native of Chicago, Illinois, and he has been recognized nationally for his books. His first book, Thornhill High School, was nominated for the Urban Fiction Book of the Year in 2015. And then It's Gonna Rain is his second novel. It won the Fiction Book of the Year for 2017 from APS Books. And then he has a couple of new books that are coming out too. One of them is Friday After Dark. So I'm real excited to have you today, Mr. Jeffrey. And without further ado, let's just get started. One thing that you say on some of your information that I have is God first in any and everything. That makes me really happy. This is a Christian broadcasting network. And although you're writing novels, that doesn't matter. And you're getting the word out in the manner that God's given you to speak to people. So I'm really excited about that. First off, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and Chicago and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm a native of Chicago, born and raised here. Been here for the last 35 years of my life. If you would have asked me, Nancy, 6 or 7 years ago, was I going to be a published author? I would have told you no. And the reason I say that is because I went to school to be a teacher. It did not work out. I went to school for human resources. That did not work out. So now I'm back in the medical field. I am an LPN, but I am also now writing books. It was my passion since I was about 12 years old. I remember this to this day. I wrote a short story in my 6th grade class with my classmate. And from there on, I first started out reading. That's what I did first. I had a love for reading at a young age, and I decided to branch off to write. So Thornhill, I actually started that one in my junior year of high school. And it's been revised over and over again throughout the years. And then in 2014, I was laid off from my job. I was laid off for a couple of months. And something inside of me said to go back and write that book. So while I was sitting at home on unemployment and looking for jobs, I started writing that book. And thus 6 months later, I finally had a manuscript.
Well, that's wonderful, but isn't that just so true? You know, we go off on so many paths.
Right.
We're going to do this, we think we're going to do that, but you know, God has other plans for us most of the time, and we have to walk through the fire to get where God really wants us to be. But I honestly believe that God uses us as mouthpieces to talk to people, whether it be reading or talking or interviews or whatever, just so we can let them know that they're not alone in whatever they're suffering with. And also WYTV's mission is to reach one person at a time. So if one person hears this interview and it makes a difference in their life, then we have done our job. We feel like we've done what we wanted to do.
That's me.
So let's go a little bit deeper into Thornhill High School and tell us about that and what the book's about and what motivated you to write it and things like that.
Okay, that book is a spinoff of my high school years. I went to two high schools. My freshman and sophomore year, I went to a high school called Hillcrest, and then I transferred and went to Thornton, which is in Harvey, where I'm originally from, and went there my junior and senior year and graduated. It's a story spun off of my time at both high schools, but it's about three fictional characters and them getting through their last year of high school. It's a book I would say that a young adult to adults can relate to. It deals with a lot of peer pressure, a lot of different things of growing up in life and becoming an adult. That book deals with that. So I really believe that's why I was nominated for the award for that book, because of what I touched on in that book. But it was based off my time in high school, and it spun off of three characters. I'm actually getting ready to go back and do the sequel to that one and bring them back 10 years later to show what happened to them.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's going to be just great.
Yes.
I know I have grandsons that are 12 and 10, and, you know, they're so much more mature now than they were even 10 years ago. They're going into, you know, 7th and 5th grade. And I personally think that they should start reading these kind of books about peer pressure and how people make it through it in the 7th grade, not wait till high school.
Right.
And I believe that's happening now. They do have reading that they have to do. They are allowed some entertainment reading, which if we put the right books in their hands, it will help them a long way through high school. Because it's difficult right now.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It's horrible right now.
Things that I didn't see that these kids are seeing now, and I've been out of school 17 years, so it's the times have changed. They really have changed.
Yes, sir. Wow, that's just fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the second novel that you did, It's Gonna Rain.
Okay. That book is about a mother. Her name is Marilyn. She is the heroine of the book, and she has two adult sons. And they're living with a house full of secrets and skeletons that come out the closet eventually. Marilyn's hiding a family secret that the younger son stumbles upon. The younger son, Martise, is hiding a secret that her and his brother don't know. And that story touches on sexuality, orientation in the church. I really didn't want to do it, Nancy, because I do go to church. I am a Christian. I do have a lot of my Christian friends from church on my Facebook page. And I really didn't want to touch on that because I know, you know, how it is with the church. But I said, let me step out the box and do something different. This is, to me, it's brushed under the rug. So I said, I want to bring a broader base to it to, you know, show, okay, this is what's going on. This is what's happening in the African-American community, especially in the church. And I just want to touch bases on that subject since it's so taboo in the Black church. So I touch on that. I touch on also being sexually active and with sexually transmitted diseases. I touch on that, the HIV virus. So a lot of that goes on in that book. And I did not think that book was actually going to win an award. I thought it was going to be Thornhill, but it was that one that APS contacted me 2 weeks ago and said, hey, we're giving you the Fiction Book of the Year award for that book. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. So that book, it took a lot out of me to write that book. It was a lot of emotion I put into that book because it's somewhat based off of someone I do know that I was real close with that passed. And they asked me to write a story about them if I ever became a writer. So a lot of that is based off of them too as well. So.
Wow. See, and that's the thing, whether it is a novel, it always has to be based on some personal experience or someone else's personal experience that you're close to. And you know what? There are issues in this day and time in the church. That word needs to get out. I mean, that's how we're going to draw more people back to the church, is by letting them know that it's okay.
Right.
And I firmly believe that. So I hope that you have that you sell more copies and that the word gets out because of the award. And hopefully you can become an Amazon bestseller very soon with some of that and be able to put that medallion on your books, because they sound like there's some books that people really need to read. So, and you know, I'm a reader too. I'm an avid reader, have been all my life. I curled up with a book when I was a little girl, and I just really was almost antisocial because of my reading. But I really get into my reading. I get into my books and what I want to read and what I want to look at. And I think there's a lot more people out there, a lot more young people out there that do that now, so they can escape whatever's happening to them. And when they read real life and real talk, that helps.
Right. Right.
Okay, and then you're getting ready to release your third book,
Mm-hmm.
which is called Friday After Dark. It's coming
Mm-hmm.
in August, which is coming this month.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you said that's a sequel to Thornhill High. Can we
No,
talk? Oh,
no, I'm sorry. No, the sequel to that is coming after Friday After Dark.
okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Friday After Dark because it's probably going to win awards too. So,
Okay. That one is composed of short stories that I wrote. It's just basically off relationships and things of that nature. So that one's really a little short novella that I wrote. Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, that's great. That's great. You said forthcoming, you've got the sequel, Class Reunion to Thornhill, and that's going to be what's happened over the last 10 years to the people that were in the first novel,
Yes.
Thornhill?
Yes, the three characters from the very first one. I'm going to fast forward 10 years to show what happened to them and also bring forth their class reunion.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, that sounds fantastic. So let's get a little bit more in depth about who you are and what makes you write these books and want to share this. You talked about how you'd had several different jobs and they really weren't for you. But
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about Chicago and your childhood and where you came from. You know, everybody wants to know about Chicago, and all we ever hear is the bad news about Chicago, the murders and the violence. But tell us about that. Did you experience things like that? And did that help with your writing, or was it therapy to get over that, some of that stuff in your youth, or that kind of thing?
Okay. Well, my youth was consistent of just like you. I'm still am an avid reader, but I wasn't as big as I was before I started writing. You could put a book in my hand and I'd have it done in 2 days. I think if I was not writing, Nancy, I probably would be a literary reviewer for some one of those big literary book clubs out there. So, but I grew up reading. And like I said, at 12, I wrote my first short story, but I grew up reading. But when I was in Chicago, I really haven't experienced any of the violence. I don't live on that side of the city of where it goes on. I see it on the news every day. Thank God it hasn't hit forefront on my end, up close and up person. But I really had a very good childhood. I lived in the suburbs, which is where I lived in Harvey. But I live in Palos now. But I lived in Harvey, and Harvey's it's changed. When I was growing up, it was more quieter, more so, but now it's getting at that route. But I didn't experience any of the things that's going on as far as in the city or in Harvey now versus when I was younger. My childhood was definitely a good one. I had able to go to the parks, play with my friends, things of that nature. My upbringing was very, very good.
Well, that's fantastic. But it still hurts your heart for your city to be
Yes, it
wrecked
does.
like that, you
It
might
does.
say. Because
It
I
does.
know a lot of people in Chicago. I do work the fourth quarter up in Chicago, the Chicago area,
Mm-hmm.
and doing employee benefits. But it's a beautiful town, but
Mm-hmm.
it just gets a little scary because of all the negative press that it gets. And I mean, I have another author and a friend of mine that I helped her with her book, and she is a pastor at an African American church in the inner city.
Okay.
Tons of good things: food drives, toy drives, book drives, everything. She's not afraid at all to go there. And as a matter of fact, when I'm in Chicago working, I go to church there.
Oh,
So I
wow.
mean, it's just you just can't let all that negative stuff just
Right.
seep in. But it just saddens her to no end that Chicago gets so much negative press and so much going on like that. And with the way we have social media and everything today, it just makes it worse because Chicago's a beautiful town and an old town.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I'm happy that you had a beautiful childhood there, and with your books and with you yourself living there and being there, then that'll help too. That'll
Mm-hmm.
help too if we get your books out in the inner city and people just start reading it, can relate to it. We could save lives one at a time.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what motivates you and what do you think your purpose is?
Okay. What motivates me is that when I was a big avid reader, I just started having different storylines that come in my head, and I just want to get them out. So, I mean, I could be working on one book at one time, Nancy, and then here comes another one, and it's like that. I'll be at work, and I was like, okay, I'm working on this one. Let me go home and write this down because something else coming. So it's just, I guess it's my love of the craft. I thank God for blessing me with the gift to write books, because everybody can say that they want to write and they'll put it off and put it off, or they can say that they have written a book, but it has to come from within. I like the fact that I like telling stories. I don't really look at the money or the fame or anything like that. I just look at the fact that if I've touched one person with my book, which is what I have done, writing the books that I have, and people that I've met, they've told me I've touched them. If I've done that, then I'm happy with what I've done. I feel like I've accomplished what my goal was. So it's just that the people keep me going with ones that have read my books and said, you got to write something else. I done finished this one really quickly and I want to read something else. So that's what keeps me going. That's the motivation and the drive I have for doing what I do.
Wow. Well, let me give a little plug for WYTV7 here. If you're just joining us, we have a very special and exciting guest that we're interviewing today, Mr. Jeffrey Roshell. He's published 3 books, and one more is coming on the way, and getting ready to be released in August. And also, he's got another book coming after that. So God just keeps dropping books in his head. And WYTV7 is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm a Shine Your Light Radio Ministry, and I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. So we're kind of like from the same kind of towns there, from Little Rock to Chicago, if you know what I mean as far as negative press. But WYTV7 is a nonprofit, and I just want to mention that because even a $5 donation will help us reach one, is what we want to do. And what we do with the donations is we actually use it to boost our views and to get our books out, our interviews out there for all the broadcasters, for more people. And we do have international viewers. And also we are on iHeartRadio now, so that gives us more exposure now to get our interviews out and to get your information out and your books out. So I'm real excited about that. Mr. Jeffrey, we don't have very much time. It's only a 30-minute interview, but I did want to try to hit on how you're getting the word out about your book, and how are you, through what means are you doing that to market yourself and your book, and are you going to do motivational speaking along with your books?
I hope to do that, Nancy. That's one of the things that I do want to challenge myself to do pretty soon now, is motivational speaking. I do a lot of social media promoting. I have an actual author page as well as my regular page on Facebook. I have an IG page. I do a lot of that as well, too. I've been doing book signings. I have one coming up. Two. I'm going to be in Indianapolis at the Malay Solange bookstore on August 26th. And then I'm also going to be at the Jessica Watkins' 3rd annual Chicago Urban Expo next month, September of next month. And that's a really big thing. But I'm trying to get out and branch off to like Charlotte and Texas and get the word out about my books as well that way too.
Well, if you keep marketing on social media, and if you start following me, you'll find a lot of interesting groups that are doing group book signings and things like that. So take advantage of all of those, because that's what I put them out there for, is to try to promote people that I meet and that I'm really interested in, and that and that has published books or trying to become a motivational speaker. I really try to help them with all the venues that I know. Plus, WYTV7 does that too. That's why we actually do these broadcasts. So one more time, do you have any closing thoughts for us, Mr. Jeffrey?
I guess my favorite tagline, I put it on all my bookmarks, is what Toni Morrison said. If you there's a book that you have not read yet that needs to be written, go out and write it. And that's what I did with my first book.
Absolutely. I love that. That's one of my very favorite sayings. And now if you'd share one more time a little bit about your contact information so people will know how to reach you, that would be great.
Okay. Well, I'm Jeffrey Roshell on Facebook. I'm author Jeffrey Roshell on Facebook as well. And I'm also author Jeffrey Roshell on IG, on Instagram. Okay, great. And your books are published, are they in Amazon, on Amazon? Yes, they're on Amazon. If you type in my name, Jeffrey Roshell, they'll come up that way. I also take PayPal orders as well. So if you are on my Facebook page, and inbox me, I'll take PayPal orders that way as well too. I'm on Walmart.com and Goodreads.com as well too. All right, that's fantastic. Well, I thank you so much. You've been just an absolute pleasure today. I pray that a lot of people get a lot out of this interview and buy your books and read them to be motivated to understand a little bit more about how they can make it through whatever situation they're in,
And this thing with schools is really, really important. It's just so important. Peer pressure is bad. And it seems like it's so much worse than it was even when I was in high school many, many years ago. But, I try to sit back and think if there are any examples of when I was in high school of the peer pressure, and really and truly, it was then too. It never goes away. It's just comes at you a different way. I did have one of my very best friends that I was a cheerleader with in high school. She actually just couldn't take anymore and just shot herself in the head after a basketball game one night. That just freaked all of us out because, we're like, why weren't we there? Why didn't we help her? And this was peer pressure that she was taking on more than she could handle. And we were all tight. We were tight. That was just something that just kind of blows your mind. So it's progressed even more now to where it's so much worse with drugs and violence and all. So anyway, I thank you so much for being with us today. And I'll be posting it when your show get ready to be broadcast. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Nancy. I appreciate it.
Much. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Shine your light, shine, shine.